What's up, y'all? We back at it. We're gonna check out the NL East today. Preview defending champs, the big spenders, the Mets. We got the Nationals, Phillies, and Marlins. Some pretty good teams in my opinion. I think probably one of the more competitive divisions in baseball. But we're gonna start out with the Braves here. Pitching wise, they got Max Fried. He was really good last year, so he's looking to build on that this year. Uncle Charlie, the ageless wonder. Curious to see how many years he has left in the tank. They got a lot of young talent, rotation wise, and just pitchers in general. Ian Anderson, he's still only 23, looking to get his second full season in. He is a very good young arm. Mike Soroka, he's looking to return from injury. Not sure when he's slated to return this year. Huascar Yanoa, he was good in 17 starts last year. Came out of the bullpen for one. He's still only 23, so he's still got a lot of room to grow. I think he's got top of the rotation potential as well. And they've got Tuki Toussaint. He's still got time to put it all together, and I think he's really close to doing so. If not, I think he'd make a phenomenal back of the bullpen arm. Another young arm, Bryce Elder. Maybe he comes up and gives them a couple starts this year. He's still only 22. Kyle Muller, he made 8 starts last year for him. So, looking for him to, come up and probably get some more experience. He's still only 24. Spencer Strider, looking to get more than 2 1/3 this year. Only 23. You're seeing a trend with all the Braves pitchers. They are all young and very good developing arms. Really, the only older guys is Charlie Morton, obviously, and Max Fried's a little bit older, but 28 is still not old. So they've got a lot of talent going forward, whether it's trade or filling out the bullpen or just having as many rotational pieces as possible. William Woods, he's another young guy. Maybe he's more slated for the bullpen. Kyle Wright, he's still only 26. Looking to get him, maybe a bigger chance. He hasn't performed super well in his few short stints in Atlanta, but there's always time for him to flip the switch and really improve. Jared Shuster, 23, I think draft pick 2 or 3 years ago. Just another good young arm. Brooks Wilson, another good young arm. He's only 26. He's looking to make his debut, I believe. Yeah, he hasn't made his. I think he's probably more slated for the bullpen at this point in his career. Maybe like a 2 or 3 inning reliever, spot starter, long reliever type. Alan Rangel, probably the same at this point. 24, hasn't developed what they would like. Tucker Davidson, he'll make some spot starts probably here and there. I think if he has a role this year, it'll probably be in the bullpen unless injuries occur. And the same with Josiah De La Cruz, probably at this point, his control is not where it needs to be. He would probably be a bullpen arm. But, they've got 15, 16 good young arms and, still 2 top of the line Cy Young contending arms. So they're setting the rotation for as long as they want to be, honestly. And in the bullpen, it doesn't stop there. They brought in Colin McHugh, Tyler Matzek returns, Darren O'Day, AJ Minter, Will Smith. All these guys outside of Colin McHugh were in the bullpen last year when they won the World Series. And Colin McHugh, spot starter, reliever, whatever it may be, has been dominant his whole career. So, they're really just adding fuel to the fire. They still got Nick Vincent in his limited action, Luke Jackson. I think he might have just went down with injury. I'm not sure. It might have just been a day-to-day thing, but they brought him back. He was phenomenal last year. Brad Brock, he's getting up there in age a little bit. Maybe his stuff's not what it used to be. Jacob Webb, still in his mid to late 20s. Sean Newcomb, maybe he found a role in the bullpen. Just letting his stuff play up and just trying to strike as many people out as possible. Seth Elledge, another young guy. So the Braves are just loaded with young pitchers. Whether it be starters, relievers, even Freddie Tarnock, I guess he's kind of moved more to the bullpen. So, curious to see what his development looks like coming forward. They brought in Kenley Jansen from the Dodgers. So that's another good pickup. And I think not having the pressure of being on the Dodgers, but I guess pressure of defending champs, I guess he's more protected in the bullpen is kind of what I'm looking for here. All these phenomenal arms. He's not going to have to go out there every, 2-3 days, and lock a game down. And, when Kirby Yates gets healthy, that's another arm they have. So, they've got probably close to 10, if not more, phenomenal arms in the bullpen they can rely on. And, probably close to 10 starters that you can rely on or they can give them a chance. So they're set for pitching for, quite a while. Behind the plate, they got Manny Pena. His overall is kind of more propped up by his defensive stats. And he does have good power, but he's not much in terms of average. As you see, about 189 in 180 at-bats. They do have Travis d'Arnaud. He's a better hitter. Not quite as good a fielder as Manny Pena. But really, I think they're looking to bring William Contreras along a little bit farther. I think he's a better hitter than the two of them. And, obviously his defensive is a little bit left to be desired. But I think he's a better defender than what they show there. But, maybe given the DH, maybe he DHs this year, gets some big lead at bats, mixes into the catcher spot here and there. But I think going forward, with d'Arnaud being 33 and Pena being 34, that's a little bit up there for a catcher. So maybe Contreras, slides in there this year or next and gets more at-bats than 52 games. They do have Kevin Smith, another veteran option if, injuries were to happen. Not much else in terms of prospects. They traded Langeliers for Matt Olson, and they let go of Alex Jackson to the Marlins last year. First base, as previously touched on, they brought in Matt Olson. They let go of Langeliers and Cristian Pache, and then they signed Matt Olson to, I think, an 8-year deal. So looks like he'll be in Atlanta for the foreseeable future, which is good because they don't really have many prospects behind him. Ozzie Albies at second base, all-star option. Can't ask for much more. Just really good all-around player. They got Jalen Muller behind him. That's really about all. He's a good fielder, fast, an average hitter at this point. Third base, they got Austin Riley. Put it all together last year, had an all-star season. I think sky's the limit for him. I think he's a very good hitter. I think it'll be more of the same for him. Probably around the same in every category. Nothing really behind him, but it's okay because he's only 24, so long road ahead. Dansby Swanson, former number 1 overall pick, started putting the ball in the seats a little bit more last year. Averages, I think, is kind of in line with his career outside of 2016 in the short 38 games he played. But yeah, started putting the ball in the air more. Average dipped a little bit. Kind of more in line with these 3 seasons than last year in the shortened season. But I think they would take 27 home runs and a 250 average, and maybe his defense to get back to where it originally was. Orlando Arcia, kind of just a backup infielder to have. Prospect-wise, they've really only got Vaughn Grissom, and I think he's probably 2+ years away, maybe 2 or 3. Outfield, they got Eddie Rosario, postseason hero. Marcelo Ozuna, 20. I think he's the 2020 MVP. It might have been Freddie Freeman. But he did have a very good year. He had 340 and almost 20 home runs in 60 games. So, they're looking to get some of that back, or maybe 2017, 2018 year. Not as much as 2019 or last year, but, they're just looking to have him for a full season. I think he'll bounce back just fine. Alex Dickerson, kind of a bat-first guy. Can't really play the field too much, so probably DH, along with William Contreras. And probably Marcelo Ozuna. Probably try and keep him out of left field once Acuna gets healthy. Drew Waters, the one I decided to keep in the trade. I would personally kept Pache, but I just think he's a better fielder than Waters. And I think at the plate, I think they're really about the same. Honestly, just kind of take your pick. They got Jeffrey Ramos. He's probably still a few years away, even though he is 23. I think he probably comes up in 24 or 25. Center field, they do have Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the best players in the game. I think he's slated to come back in late May, early June. But when he comes back, they'll obviously be a lot better off than they are without him. Michael Harris, good young prospect. I think he has a chance to play his way into some at bats this year, maybe later in the season. They got Justin Dean, who maybe if an outfielder goes down and they need some speed, maybe they look at him, but he's got a ways to go with the bat still. Guillermo Heredia, just a good veteran outfielder to have, for an off day. Adam Duvall, another postseason hero, close to 40 home runs. 230 average is a little bit lower than what you would like, but I think he's a good hitter. I think he can probably get that average up this year. Not much in terms of prospects behind him. The Marlins, they brought in Avisail Garcia. I think that was a good pickup for them. I think he'll do very well. Definitely helps them shore up their outfield a little bit. Probably get them a few more wins here and there. Behind him, kind of just Gerard Encarnacion. Maybe comes up this year, probably next year. Center field, Brian De La Cruz. He had a pretty solid year last year and, close to 60 games. So maybe he can do more of the same over a full season. They brought in Roman Quinn. Not entirely sure why, honestly. He's just more of a glove first guy. Never really played a full season. His closest one was 41 out of the 60 games in 2020. But, he can fly, so maybe they're just hoping he can figure it out with the bat. Looks like he does have some pop against lefties. Jesus Sanchez, one of their better young players, especially in terms of outfielders. I think he's going to take a step forward this year, probably close to 25 home runs and a 265, 270 average. I think he's going to take a big step forward this year. They got Victor Mesa Jr., good young prospect from Cuba. I think he's probably 2-3 years away. Peyton Burdick, maybe this year. Victor Mesa's Mesa's brother, Victor Mesa. I think he might come up in a year or two. Obviously the younger brother is a little bit better, but just kind of wait and see on that one. Brought in Jorge Solaire, another former Brave postseason hero. I think in a full season role in the middle of their lineup, I think he'll do pretty well. I think he might get back to a little bit of 2019, close to 50. I don't think he'll get close to 50 home runs. I think he'll be probably around 40-ish, probably about the same average. J.J. Bleday, another, top prospect. I think he'll come up probably sometime in June, early July. I think they'll look to get him as many at-bats as possible this year. I don't think they're going to necessarily contend. They might be in the playoff race, but I don't think they'll contend genuinely for a World Series this year. Shortstop, they still got Miguel Rojas. He's been there for, since 2015. He's held it down. Very good fielders, starting to put it together with the bat a little bit more. But, they drafted Khalil Watson, so now he's really just a placeholder until he's ready. And honestly, I think he's at most 2 years away. It's really just depending on when they want to bring him up. Gonzalez, just a good, backup infielder to have. Jose Devers, excuse me, another good prospect. Obviously a glove first guy. Got to put it together with the bat. Maybe he comes up and gets some major league at bats this year. And see what he can do. Looks like he did get a few at bats last year. 40 at bats in 21 games. So maybe he'll get, a few more than that this year. Third base, they have Brian Anderson. Obviously a Gold Glove defender at third base. Solid hitter, just has to stay healthy really, take that step forward with the bat. They brought in Joey Wendell from the Rays. Looks like they signed him maybe. I don't think they traded anybody for him. But, he's a good insurance policy to have. I think they kind of bring about the same thing, just Brian Anderson bats righty, Joey Wendell bats lefty. So, maybe they end up platooning him if Brian Anderson can't seem to stay healthy. Second base, you got one of the more exciting players in baseball, young guy, Jazz Chisholm. I think they're very high on him, and I think he'll do very good this year. I think he'll look to get over the 20 home run mark. Maybe he even challenges for 30-30. I think he can get 30 steals in a full season. But, obviously he needs to hit lefties better, and I think that average will go around the 270 mark. So, that's kind of what they're looking for there. John Birdie, speed demon, good backup infielder to have. Prospect, Eisen Diaz still hasn't seemed to put it all together. I thought he was a better hitter than 193. I could be wrong on that, but I think, maybe he spends part of the year in AAA, finds his swing a little bit and comes up and helps the Marlins out. First base, you got Jesus Aguilar. He, at this point, he just kind of is what he is. Mid 20s and home runs, 260 to 270 average, which, I feel like that's plenty. They got Garrett Cooper, more of a bat against lefties than he is against righties. Jesus Aguilar is kind of more of a complete hitter. But, Garrett Cooper is not bad. Really, they're, I think they need to give more bats to Lewin Diaz. He's obviously a better fielder than both. And I think given more opportunity, he would become a very good hitter. He's a big dude, 6'4", close to 220. Pretty smooth swing, but, hasn't really got the opportunity to play very much. And I think if he did, he would definitely progress very well. Just kind of some depth at first there. Behind the plate, they traded for Jacob Stallings, who is obviously a very good defender. And I think he can take a step forward with the bat this year. I think he probably can get close to 20 home runs, probably around the same average. They drafted Joe Mack, so, that's kind of the catcher of the future, it looks like. He's only 19. We'll probably see him in 3-4 years. They got Nick Fortes, looks like their backup catcher. He's a young guy, 25, so maybe he stakes a claim at starting catcher after, Jacob Stallings. I think he's probably going to hold it down for at least a year or two. They also got Peyton Henry. He's not a bad option. Another young guy, 24. Will Banfield, I thought he had more potential than that personally. But these aren't my rosters, so, maybe a different roster does have him with higher potential. Who knows? Bullpen, back of it, they got Anthony Bender. Good option to have. Had a good year last year. Dylan Floro, another good option to have. So, they're pretty set at the back end, it looks like. Along with Richard Blyer, Cole Sulzer, Lewis Ed, and Stephen Okert. Looks like their main guys, and Anthony Bass and Zach Pop. Younger guys, so, maybe he filters towards the back end of the bullpen. Bender's only 27, so he's probably got that locked down for a while. They brought in Tanner Scott. I think that's a good arm. Good lefty to have. Throws really hard. Has a lot of movement on his stuff. I think if he can get his control down, you can see that ERA in the low threes probably. Just on his stuff alone. Jordan Holloway, good. Probably a long reliever spot starter kind of guy. Anybody else? Not really. Just kind of some depth throughout. Pitchers, Sandy Alcantara, one of the better young pitchers in the game. Very consistent. Looks like 205 innings, a touch over 200 strikeouts. Low threes ERA. You wouldn't expect 9-15, but the Marlins weren't very good last year. So, I expect the win-loss to go a little bit differently this year. Maybe flip it around. It's just more about run support because I think he's definitely one of the better pitchers. Pablo Lopez, same thing. Stays healthy. They've got three top of the rotation guys, in their mid-20s between Alcantara, Lopez, and Trevor Rogers. And I think that'll definitely carry them a long way. Jose Hernandez, just a good back of the rotation guy to have. I think that's kind of what his ceiling is, probably like a 3 at most, but settles in as a solid 4. Sixto Sanchez, young electric arm. Hopefully he can stay healthy this year, provide them more than 39 innings. They got Jesus Luzardo in a trade with the A's last year. Hopefully he can take a step forward and get that ERA down a lot. Most of his problems are control as well. As you see, 48 walks and 95 innings really isn't what you would like. But his stuff is electric and it plays, so I think he will be very good. Maybe he develops into a back of the bullpen arm if he can't find his control. They got a lot of young pitchers just like the Braves. Yuri Perez, Jake Eater, Max Meyer. I think he's knocking on the door. Along with Edward Cabrera, I think he comes up and gets more starts. I think these three will probably get a chance to throw a lot of big league innings this year. at some point. Dax Fulton, another one. Nick Neidert, he's not too bad. I think he's a solid arm to have. And Braxton Garrett and Will Stewart, I think they've got a lot of talent pitcher as well. Moving on to the Mets, who are currently in first place without Max Scherzer or Jacob deGrom. Or Scherzer might have came back already, but deGrom's out still. So, they're in first place without him. So when he comes back, as you see, he had a 1.08 ERA in 92 innings last year with 146 strikeouts. I personally think he's the best pitcher in baseball. And I don't really think his best argument might be Max Scherzer. And they're on the same team. So, that kind of just screws the rest of the NL East and National League, really. They brought in Chris Bassett in a trade with the A's. You're going to hear a lot of trade with the A's. They have just kind of shipped all of their talent away in the last couple of years. Whether it be impending free agents or, just big-time talent. They just don't really have the money to keep everybody in-house. So, they brought Chris Bassett over. That's a good number 3 starter. Taijuan Walker, a good number 4. A lot of their guys are a little bit older outside of, Walker, he's under 30. And then Carlos Carrasco and David Peterson, I think they'll probably run a 6-man rotation if everyone's healthy. I could be wrong. But, they still got Joey Lucchesi, looking for him to kind of figure it out. He had good potential coming up. Tyler McGill, he's made a couple starts this year. He's looked really good. Jordan Yamamoto, came over from the Marlins. He's, young arm they got, so maybe they progress him a little bit, give him some innings. Matthew Allen, I think one of their top prospects right now. He's, good young arm. Not too much in terms of other prospects. They're kind of more relying on what they currently have, whereas, the Marlins and the Braves have, just talent throughout the system. Relievers, they got Seth Lugo, Trevor May. They brought in Adam Ottavino, John Curtis, Felix Pena, Joely Rodriguez. It's kind of their top guys, and you got Drew Smith and Trevor Williams here. But I think after everyone's healthy, I think you'll probably be looking at Joely Rodriguez as the cutoff, unless one of these guys doesn't perform, and then maybe one of these two have a spot. Younger guys, you got Sean Reed Foley, former starter, maybe spot starter, long reliever guy. Eric Orze, not really sure, honestly. Maybe he gets some innings this year. I can tell you something about him. Junior Santos, I guess maybe they're shifting him to the bullpen. Closer, they got Edwin Diaz, who loves just to point in the air when home runs happen. And, he's kind of a meme at this point for it, but, he's still solid. Behind the plate, they still got James McCann holding it down, but they do have Francisco Alvarez knocking on the door. They got Thomas Nido back up, just a good fielder to have, solid enough hitter as a backup catcher. Patrick Mazeika, just kind of good depth to have in case of injuries. First base, they got the polar bear, Pete Alonso, one of the best power bats in the game. If he hits for more average, I think he could have an MVP caliber season. If he, gets the strikeouts down a little bit, I think he could hit 45 plus home runs with a 280 average. It's a pretty good season. Not too much behind him. Second base, they got Jeff McNeil. He had a down year last year. I think, injuries were a little bit of the cause of that. So, he's looking to get back to his first 3 years, maybe something more like 2019, where he's got 20 plus home runs and hitting close to 320. He can't ask much more than that. Luis Guillorme, just kind of a backup infielder. Third base, they brought in Eduardo Escobar. Very good switch hitter, good veteran presence. They still have J.D. Davis. I think they probably shift him, either play him at first base and DH Pete Alonso or put J.D. Davis in left field. Young guys, they got Brett Beatty and Mark Vientos, two good prospects. More of them bat first than glove, but, if they hit well enough and they don't make 15 errors a season, they can definitely find a place. Shortstop, they still got Francisco Lindor. He'll be there for, foreseeable future. He's going to look to have a bounce back year. He's kind of took a couple of down years here the last couple of years after, being one of the better shortstops in baseball for about, I would say 5 years, honestly, ever since he came up. Prospect-wise, Ronnie Mauricio, he's a very good prospect. I think he's probably only a year or two away. So, if maybe they put him at second base and keep Lindor at short, or other way around, who knows. Left field, they brought in Mark Canha, also from the A's, I believe. Yeah, from the A's. He's definitely a good bat to have in the outfield, as long as he's not really an everyday guy. I mean, everyday guy, he's still obviously good, but they've got a lot of bats to go around. They got Dominic Smith still, who I think is a very good hitter. Can't really play the field all too great, but his bat plays. They got Carlos Cortez, really just a older prospect at this point. They brought in Starling Marte by way of the Marlins / the A's. They signed him in the offseason. I think that was a good signing. Good center fielder for them to have. They got Khalil Lee. He's still young. I think he probably comes up and plays like the fourth outfielder role this year. They got Alex Ramirez. He's 19. He's probably still a few years away. Right field, they got Brandon Nimmo. I think a full season, you'll probably see him hit 20-plus home runs. He's a good outfielder, very good defender. Good speed, so he can track a lot of fly balls down. Travis Jankowski, in case someone gets hurt, he's a good insurance policy to have. You got the Phillies, you got Bryce Harper in right field, MVP. Can't say too much else about it. Not too much behind him, a couple young guys, but not too crazy potential. So they got Odubel Herrera. I think he is probably their center fielder for the time being. He's an okay fielder. They don't have much in terms of defensive guys this year, but they do have one of the best offenses in baseball. Mickey Moniak, I think, will probably play a big role for them this year. I think he's going to put it together and probably definitely get more than 21 games and 33 at-bats. I think he'll probably be the center fielder by the end of the season. They brought in Castellanos and Schwarber. One of them's going to DH, I think, and then the other one will play left field. I would probably see, really there's not too much difference fielding-wise. But obviously, both of them are very amazing hitters, so that helps their, one of the best offenses in baseball. Matt Vierling, just kind of a backup outfielder for him. Shortstop, I think they're going with Bryson Stott. I think that's definitely the plan going forward. I think, honestly, at this point, he's a better hitter than Didi Gregorius, and obviously has a lot more upside. And, Gregorius has taken a big step back with the glove. As he's gotten older, he's lost a couple steps. They also got Yairo Munoz. He's not a bad option if Bryson Stott doesn't do well early in the season and Gregorius just can't stay healthy. They got Luis Garcia, who I think will probably move over to second base. I think Bryson Stott will stay at short. They also still have Scott Kingery, so maybe they get some of 2019 back again, play him somewhere. They got Alec Boehm, who's going to look to recover from a rough rookie year. Hopefully he takes a step forward for him. Second base, they still got Gene Segura. He's a very good top of the order bat to have. Even as he's lost a couple steps as he's gotten older, he's still a very good hitter, very good defender. So I think, once his contract is up, they'll probably move Luis Garcia over to second base. First base, they got Rhys Hoskins. Or, maybe they move Boehm to first and play Luis Garcia at third, because Rhys Hoskins is not a good defender. I think he needs to be the DH, but then you run into Schwarber and Castellanos. So, while they're a very good offensive team, I think defense is what is going to hold them back. But, they do have Real Muto behind the plate. He's a very good defender and obviously a very good hitter, one of the better catchers in the game. Logan O'Hoppe, really they're only, I guess they got Rafael Marchand. So, really just whoever can take a bigger step forward this year, I think will probably be the catcher of the future. Back in, they brought in Corey Knebel. Good bullpen arm to have. Or did he play for him? No, he played for the Dodgers last year. Cam Bedrosian, another good just option to have. Good. He's not overwhelmingly good, but he'll give you innings when you need them. They brought in Brad Hand. I think he's probably on the downswing of his career. Sam Coonrod, Sir Anthony Dominguez is a good option to have. I think at one point he was, kind of slated to be the closer, and then just kind of wasn't. And then last year he was hurt. Jose Alvarado, another good hard thrower. They got a righty and a lefty who could do the same thing. Connor Brogdon, another good young arm to have. Bailey Falter. They brought in Jorge Solaire. They got a lot of options in the bullpen. A couple younger guys here and there. They got McKinley Moore from the White Sox for Adam Hazley. Personally, I don't have any feelings about the trade. I think it was just kind of a backup for a backup. In the rotation, they got one of the better pitchers, Zach Wheeler. I think he'll continue to be very good this year. They got Aaron Nola, who they're going to look to have bounce back, and I think he's probably a good candidate to do so. Ranger Suarez, if he can keep up what he did last year over, a full season of starting, I think they, would have 3 aces at the top of their rotation. Kyle Gibson, as he gets older, he's still pitching very well. Zach Eflin, he's still, just a solid back of the rotation guy. Got a couple young guys here, Andrew Painter and Micah Bell, who I think both of them will probably be front of the rotation guys as they develop more. Jojo Romero, I think given more of an opportunity to pitch in the majors, maybe start some games, I think can give them a lot more, or maybe he develops into a back of the bullpen guy. Mark Appel, he former top pick. Maybe he still has something in the tank that if he gets a chance he can show. Tyler Phillips, another young option to have. And Francisco Morales, he's probably a year or two away yet. Same with Hans Kraus. Maybe he gets some more innings this year, but maybe not. Depending on, the health and stuff. And Julian Garcia, another young guy. Last team we're going to look at, the Nationals. They got Strasburg. He can't seem to stay healthy. I think it's still his neck that's been bothering him, so not really sure when he's going to come back. Cole Henry, top pick out of LSU. I don't remember if it was last year or year before, but he'll probably come up and throw a lot of innings this year. I don't think the Nationals are going to contend. As we get into May, we'll probably see that. Excuse me. Patrick Corbin, he wasn't very good last year, and I think he's been hit hard to start this season, so, he's got some stuff to figure out. Joe Ross, health issues. So maybe he can stay healthy this year and discover some of his untapped potential. Paulo Espino, just an older guy to eat up the innings. Josiah Gray came over from the Dodgers in the trade for Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. So, they're going to look for him to take a step forward this year and make that trade look a little bit more fair. They got Jackson Rutledge, Cade Cavalli, a couple of young guys with a lot of potential. Not really too much else. Like I said, they're not really a contending team, and they don't have much in terms of prospects, at least pitching-wise. They got Will Harris, Tyler Clippard, Doolittle, Edwards. Their bullpen is older than most. So, they do have Hunter Harvey, who has been regarded as, one of the higher prospects the last few years. Came over from the Orioles. Maybe he gets some innings and maybe starts to put some stuff together. Matt Cronin, same thing. Young guy, decent potential. Back at the bullpen, they got Kyle Finnegan. And, personally, I would rather go with Will Harris or Sean Doolittle. But, that's up to them. Maybe they see Kyle Finnegan as the closer. Behind the plate, they do have Keibert Ruiz, one of the better young catchers, I think. I think he is going to do very well over a full season. I think he's got rookie eligibility still. I think he'll be in the Rookie of the Year race because I think the Nationals are going to give him as many at-bats as possible as long as he stays healthy. And they don't really have much else in terms of prospects behind him or just really depth in general. First base, they do have Josh Bell, who's a candidate to get traded by the deadline. But if they do hang on to him, I think he's a good first baseman to have. He's switch hitter, good power, solid average, decent fielder. Just a good all-around player. Behind him, they do have KJ Harrison and Drew Mendoza, who, maybe they look to get them some at-bats this year. Second base, they brought in Cesar Hernandez. White Sox brought him in last year. He was doing well with Cleveland. He kind of tanked. So, maybe I'd rather give it back to Luis Garcia. Young guy. But maybe they're just gonna have Caesar as a placeholder. Who knows? Third base, brought in Michael Franco. I think he still has something to prove. I think he could be okay. And they got Brady House. They're just kind of placeholding until he progresses a little bit more. He's a young guy, so he's probably 3 years away. Shortstop, or yeah, they've got Carter Kieboom still. I thought he would be better than what he has. I guess he had a rough year last year, so maybe they think he's not as good anymore. But I think he still obviously has potential to progress. Shortstop, they brought in Alcides Escobar. Just a good veteran shortstop to have. Young guys, they don't really have too much. Lucius Fox, Yasel Antuna, and Jordy Varley. None of them have crazy potential, it looks like. So, a lot to figure something out there. Left field, they do have Lane Thomas. He was solid for them last year. He kind of a platoon guy, it looks like. More against lefties. Good speed though, decent defender. They got Andrew Stevenson. He's just kind of a backup outfielder. Same with Yadiel Hernandez. Looks like he's more of a bat first guy, so maybe he's their DH because it doesn't look like he's too good in the field. Center field, they do still have Victor Robles, who, good defender, but hasn't really given them too much at the plate yet. So, he's going to need to take a step forward there to cement his status as their center fielder of the future. But he's still only 24, so there's plenty of time. They got Jeremy De La Rosa. He's a good young outfielder, good prospect. Looks like he's more defender at this point in his career, so they're going to look for him to pick up the bat a little bit this year. And obviously in right field, they got Juan Soto, one of the best hitters in the game. They brought in Nelson Cruz, who at this point, he's 41. I think he'll be a good locker room guy. Good for the young guys. Help them, learn. Obviously he's still a top of the line hitter. At 40 years old, he had 32 home runs and hit 265. He even had 3 stolen bases. That's crazy. But I think he'll be a good pickup for them. But I think he will probably get traded somewhere, whether it be late June. But I think he'll definitely be traded by the trade deadline. And they got Donovan Casey. He's just kind of a guy at this point. And Gerardo Parra, just another good outfielder to have. But that's going to do it for the teams. I think first place, obviously the Braves are defending champs. The Mets have looked really good so far, and they don't even have DeGrom back yet. And the Phillies, their offense is ridiculous, and they have a decent amount of pitching. And then you've got the Marlins and the Nationals. I think the Marlins are probably still a year away from being genuine playoff contenders. And I think the Nationals are, just starting a rebuild. So I'm curious to see how long they keep Juan Soto. But he is only 23, so they would be insane to trade him. So I think in last place, you probably got the Nationals. Fourth place, you've got the Marlins. And I think the third place team will probably be the Phillies. I think their defense is going to hurt them more than their offense helps them. And I think first place is going to be a battle between the Braves and the Mets. I think it's really going to come down to who can stay healthy. But, they're the defending champs for a reason, so I probably had the Braves in first place because they didn't really lose anybody outside of, like, Jorge Solaire. But they didn't really – they lost Freddie Freeman, obviously, but they brought in Matt Olson. So, depending on who you like more is who you would choose in that one. And, the Mets brought in a lot of talent, but they're still the Mets. So, they got MVP candidates, Cy Young candidates, Rookie of the Year candidates, but, we'll just have to see how the year plays out. But I think it's going to be a very competitive division. But I'm going to catch y'all later. Peace.